So I'm going to cover some more straightforward, simple automations so that normal business owners, people who aren't developers, can see how easy it is to start just taking stuff and automating it. The first one I'll talk about is putting emails into Google Sheets. We'll get an email from somebody, we'll forward it to this automation account, and then we'll let N8N do something. In this case, we'll put it into a leads or sheet or task sheet or recipes or bookmarks. I have this guy already made with some sheets, so that will come in handy as we dig into the N8N. And let's just do this one, URL title. What I'm going to do is share the sheet, I don't know, brain, and we'll call it that, and we'll say anyone with the link. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do it this way just for the heck of it. Okay. So now, how do we kick this off? So I'm going to use an email. This is Bob at DailyAi. Now, when Bob gets an email from somebody or sends an email to himself, it will trigger all this type of thing, okay? Or sends it to the email box that we're going to talk about. Now, Bob, because he's using DailyAi, he gets a free email that represents automations, and we'll cover that in a moment. So Bob gets an email from a lead. So I'm going to go into Firefox, and this person is an example client. They're going to send Bob a message and send it to Bob. Now, Bob got this lead, and he's, okay, I need to not forget this, okay, or I need to organize it. He might even reply to the person. But what Bob can do is he could forward it to that email, which will be automations. Now, let's set that up. So here's my N8N, and I'm going to set up my SMTP. Now, before I set up anything else, and I think, sorry, I got to find the right trigger. Let's see, email trigger. Here we go. So it's not SMTP, my bad. So we're going to add a new one, and we're going to call it automations, example, DailyAi. Okay. Now that person is a user. They have an email, and then they have a password, which you can see. And then they have an email account. And I think 993 is okay. Let's find out. The nice thing is you get that nice thing saying, hey, it worked. So now when Bob gets an email, it will mark it as read. It could even download the attachments. I haven't done this one before. And then we'll just test it. Now, how can we test it? We only have to test it once, and I'll explain that in a moment. So Bob can forward this now. So Bob will just forward it to his awesome email automation email like that. Now Bob is done. He could set up automatic forwarding. He could do a lot of things, but we're just going to do it that way. So now Bob sent it to there, and then we go back to our N8N, and we see that it came in. And we're going to pin it so we never have to do that again. It's just a waste of time if we do that every time we build something. Now, we are just going to give that to our AI agent. Now, I like the AI agent, but I want to not just have it handle email for a moment, because I want to also play around with it in chat to help test things out. So we're going to call this chat input. And in this case, we're just going to give it everything from the guy before. So I think if I do that, it should be okay. And then I think that should be it for that. Oh, it sometimes needs a session ID. And we're just going to make the session ID, we can just make it even, it can be anything really. We'll just make it that. So something unique. Now, I don't even know if I need that, because I'm not going to do, I'll do memory too, simple memory, okay? So see how it says session ID. And then we're going to add a chat model. So we're going to use OpenAI, no big deal. You can use whatever you want. I'm just going to do this for a moment. And then might as well just click save on here. Okay. But I also want to add a chat trigger, because I just want to mess around with this too while we're here. So this will cause a little complexity in all of this. If it gets annoying, I'll remove it, because I know I don't want to distract people. But my point is, this just happens to be a chat input in session ID, which is the same thing this guy happens to do as well. So if I ask a chat message and I say hello, it would then send it here as chat input. That's all. So I'm basically saying to N8N, and this is a common pattern, where, hey, the data coming in is going to be chat input or a field, and a session ID or a field. And I'm saying, hey, when we come in from email too, we're going to have that same pattern, session ID and chat ID, chat input. So setting aside that kind of weird thing, I say weird because it's tricky, but it's not that hard once you get used to it. So now we want to process this email. So I'm going to close my chat window, hide chat, and I'm going to say, okay, what is the goal of this chat input? I want it to do something. I want it to say, hey, If a message comes in and it's a lead, if a message comes in and it's a recipe, do something with it, more and more, okay? So the first tool I want to create is a sheet. And this sheet will be to handle leads. And because I just decided to make that URL wide open, just so we don't have to deal with permissions, because they're a pain. They're not a pain. There's tons of good videos on it. I'll list a couple below where you can set up your Google Auth. It's really not that bad. It's just a little tedious. And once you do it once, you're done for good. So that's the good news. But here we are. We can say, there's my URL. And I can say, which one do we want? We want leads. Now, we have this ability to choose any one, but I want to do this one because I want to do one at a time and focus on it, okay? And I don't want to search, I don't want to get rows, I want to create a row. The title is there, and then I don't want to create a sheet either. Sheet within a document. So I want to do something here, sorry. Google Sheet, tool description, we'll fix that in a moment. Sheet within a sheet, document. I don't want to do any of those. So let's find out what's going on here. That actually should be, and I think what's going to happen is I'm going to learn something here. So with a tool in Google Sheets, what can I do? I can sheet within a sheet. I can get rows. Here, this is what I want. Create a new sheet. I want to append a row. Perfect, perfect, great. So we're going to call this add leads to sheets. Now, what if it's a repeat lead? We'll cover that. Sheets within a document, append a row from list. Now we're going to put in that URL. Anyone can write to this URL. It's okay. I'll delete it when I'm done. And then we'll select it. So we're going to say leads. Now, back to that point. Like, what if they're already a lead? So let's do another sheet there. We'll call it existing leads. And this will help this guy know what leads are there. And same thing. We're going to say from URL, paste that in, from a list, leads, we're going to get rows, and we'll just get all the rows. Okay. We'll say get existing leads. Okay. So we've made a tool to get leads. We've made a tool to add leads. And what does this guy do? It says, okay, what's the name of the lead? I'm going to go let it figure that out. What's the email? Let it figure out that. What's the phone? It's not always great at dates. I'm going to just actually put something here. So this is how you do dates. And you can do a format. See how as I type, it figures things out for me. And then I want hours and minutes and AM or PM. And then I'll let it do the message. So at this point, it should be able to handle that. It will look for a lead and add a lead. A lot of little details, we'll go through them eventually. So if I say test the workflow, because I've pinned it, it should kick in and then go to here. Now, sometimes with these triggers, it can take a while, and I don't like that because I don't want to wait for an email to come in every time. That's horrible. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to deactivate this to make sure I'm not confusing N8N. And then I'm going to try it one more time, and if it doesn't work, we'll do it the step-by-step way. There we go, it worked. So I deactivated a potential trigger that was getting in the way for that trigger. If it didn't work, I would go to each one and do something. Now, the good news is it said, hey, I'm going to use chat, obviously AI. I'm going to use the memory if maybe it uses it for itself or if I'm chatting with it. I'm going to look in the sheets because they're green in that. And we can actually see that logic going on here, which is very helpful as well. What is the chat? What is the memory? Get existing leads and that. So now we go here and we go to leads and we can see we have a lead, okay? So I could be notified when this happens, right? I could be told we have a lead. I just forward it to myself, so obviously I don't need to. Or someone else could be notified in the office. For example, I could add to this a Mattermost room. So I could say, I think Mattermost has a trigger. No, sorry, it wouldn't be a trigger of Mattermost. I could say, and I don't want to add more triggers in here because this is where it gets confusing. But I could say, let's do this, not right there. So I could add a trigger that is a sheet, if I could spell. And I could say triggers on new added, on row added, on row updated, and on row updated or added. So we could create a notification for everybody. So I could say, hey, when someone does something here, let's then say it's time to go notify everybody somewhere else. So I could say in Mattermost, see message, post a message, and you could use Slack. Either one obviously works. A channel, create a message. And I don't know what that is. Oh, look at create a new channel. No, I don't want to create a channel. Message. Post a message. Let's see. Let's put it into marketing. Here we go. We'll do there. And what can I do? I can attach an item? No, I could put more stuff in that message. Wonder if you could do markdown. Okay. So now when I add it, obviously it's going to add again, or maybe not because it's seeing what the leads are and it might decide to do something different. Let's see what it decides. Oh, it says you already have this. So that's great. Okay. So now let's go add a bookmark or a recipe. I like that one. So let me think for a moment. Let's do tasks. Okay. Let's just step back and keep this practical. So I'm going to make a task. So I'm going to say get existing tasks. Okay. And get existing tasks. Okay. And we're going to go to the task sheet. And then I'm going to tell it make a task. Now, I'm going to actually ask the system. There's no system prompt. So let's go make a system prompt. This helps the thing knows what it's here for, what it's doing. It actually succeeded based off something so simple. Your role is to be an assistant as data comes in, typically from email. Just consider what to do with it with all the tools you have below, including making tasks if there's a good reason to make a task, like a lead came in and we have to be reminded to follow up with it shortly. There's also recipe tools and bookmark tools that you can use as well. Just depends on what the message is that came into you. You could have ChatGPT fix that and make it better. So now we have tasks, and let's go make the one that's like to add a task. Let's see. So we're going to say add task. And you could set it automatically. Create. I like to write it, and then we're going to go to tasks. Okay. So now we got to get rid of all of these because these are from the previous sheet. And we should get, let's see, append row. Actually, it should have been a little different there. So if we go to task, it's item, notes, related, draft. Okay. So we're going to say tasks. And oh, here it is, synchronize. Here we have to do that. Item, notes, related lead, due date. Now, if I run that again, it shouldn't make a new person. If it does, it's just we got to tweak it a bit. But maybe it will decide to make a task. Let's see. So let's send in a new one. And I'm just going to have Bob do something in his email. So Bob's, you know what? I got to remember to go do this thing. So let's go create a message. We're going to send it to our automation assistant. All right. So now, because I forgot to turn this thing on, right? It's not going to really get any emails. So I could put it into testing mode, and that could get a little bit frustrating after a while, but let's just do it. Now, when it's in testing mode, it's listening. I think it should get the previous one. It might not. I might have to send it again. But remember, it's not on until you turn that one on, and then it will listen. So let's just show it listening. So we're going to turn it on. It's on. And I'll write that again. So I sent something to Linda. Let's send it again. Now, this is me just emailing myself that particular automation email I have, right? And oh, that's why I keep losing it. This is an email from 1Password, or a copy paste, so it keeps leaving my clipboard. All right, so that should come in. If we go look here, this should be from the one we just made up. And if I copy it to the editor, we're going to see, and you'll look, it didn't ask me anything. And this is a weird thing with N8N. I'm going to reload, and it's going to ask me to unpin is where I want to get to, because we're in debug mode. And it didn't, which is interesting. So I want to make sure this is the pin data. Yeah, oh, it is. Good. It worked. Okay. So we have our pin data. This came in. I'm going to make sure it's pinned. It is. It's purple. And it did it. It made an existing, it gets existing tasks, but it didn't make one because I already had it. So that's interesting. Did I rename that wrong? Let's go look. Set manually get rows. Yeah, I got them. So it must have made the task, and I didn't see it because it was one of the previous. I'm not sure why actually, because that's interesting. It doesn't show green, but it made the task. All right. So now let's do one more thing. I want to be able to email myself recipes and later bookmarks, because that can come in handy, like things I want to read. So let's do another one. We're going to do add recipe. Okay, so we're just going to take this, add recipe, and create a new recipe. And the same thing, but we're going to now click this and say recipes. This should show a refresh, but it's not. I'm going to do this and then do this. And there we go. Set the title, URL, and TLDR. Then I'm going to do this. Now we have a recipe. When I find a nice recipe, I can just send it to myself. So simple recipes. Let's go find a nice recipe. I'm going to say, this is the recipe. Now, the tricky part is this is just a URL. Okay, so it doesn't go scrape the site. I'd have to do a little bit more work, honestly. That's a tricky one. I will do it though, because it would be an interesting one to show, but I think it's a little bit beyond such a simple look at the tooling. So I'm going to say compose, go get me. That's the recipe I want. And that's it. Now recipe save. And then I could say, who is that person? Did it save it? I don't know this thing at all. Okay. I'll have to add them to a contact. Okay. So now Bob told the system to go do the recipe. And if we go here, we see it's running, and that's about it. Let's see something really quick. Copy to the editor. So we see the green lines, it came in, and it goes into here as a recipe that I can go look at later on. I would like to scrape the website. We can easily do that. I can show a few strategies around that. For example, you could just say when a row is added here, we can go update it. Or you could say that this tool is a bit smarter and it would go into another tool to then do all that work. It's really not that hard, and I think it'd be a good one. I just think I want to show some simple automations. So we now have the ability to just send stuff to an email box, have the AI do things with it, put it into a spreadsheet, notify people when leads are put in. We can even build that to-do list that it could look at every day for us. So for example, now as a person who has a business, I could chat with this. I could say, oops, I didn't mean to click that, one moment. I could activate this guy, and then I could say, let me save and reload, because sometimes the chat gets a little bit wonky. So now the AI knows about my tasks, so I can get a sense of what to do. But what if I wanted just to do that for me every day? So I could send a trigger, and it will be a schedule trigger, schedule. And every day at 6 a.m., send me a report. Let's see. Where did it put that? All right, here it is. So every day I wanted to generate a report. And so what do I want it to do? I wanted to email me. So I could say, let's see, what would this be? This would be a tool. And the tool would be SMTP, mail. Can it do mail? Let's see. So if I click a tool, that's the thing the AI can do. I could say SMTP, send. So I could say send email tool. That's nice. Okay. So then I would have to add my credentials, which I could send it from the automation tool. So I'm going to do it that way. I don't know. This should just work. But if it doesn't, I'll have to mess around with the port. I think it's 587 for me. Maybe that's off. Yeah, good enough. Okay. We're saying from, so it's going to be from automations to, we're going to go right to Bob on this one. And then we're going to say your daily update. Okay. Text is fine just for the heck of it. And we're going to give this guy the ability to do whatever it wants. Okay. So now I'm going to put this in here, but it's expecting a format. So now we're going to take this guy and we're going to give it a format, right? So we're going to say session ID for us will be a daily message. Now this won't pay off that much because we don't have memory that's saved to a database. We could easily, but for now we just don't. That would be nice. And our chat input is really our prompt. And remember, these guys do not know the date. So I'm going to tell it the date, okay? So let's see. Now this can get tricky to test because we have so many triggers. I'm going to click save. So I'm going to say, I think if I trigger this and then this, it should now go down the line. And so it's doing some gets and it's doing some sends. And that's it. So now Bob should get an email. Let's see, where is my inbox? Here we go. All right, that's it. So Bob has, with just a few clicks, not a ton of like complexity, a way to chat with his data, a way to get a report every day, and then a way to listen to an email box, to forward emails to files. We could do a file and other things. All right, so I just want to show how to get started with email automation. Look at how much you can do, just 20 minutes, not even, and you're ready to go. A little hard, but not impossible. You can move it out of Sheets, but Sheets aren't bad, and do more.